Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, welcome everyone to today's ACE webinar. It's our member meetup, social media and accessibility. And this was brought up by the learning community that has to do with diversity and accessibility that included, asked us if we would like to participate in terms of social media because it all just made sense. So what we're going to do to get right into it, because we appreciate your time, is we are going to go ahead and let our speaker, Rachel Dotson, go ahead and introduce herself and then get right into it. So Rachel, you can go right ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for spending part of your afternoon with me. As mentioned, my name is Rachel Dotson. I serve as a public affairs specialist here at NIFA, and I handle our social media accounts, and we are on LinkedIn, Twitter, and then we are currently in the process of gaining our own NIFA Facebook page. So pretty exciting to be adding that platform into our mix of sharing our NIFA story and helping also spread our stakeholder news and whatnot. So I'll just start by sharing my screen. Okay. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, your screen's coming in fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So yeah, I'll be sharing a little bit about accessibility on social media. And honestly, I wasn't too familiar with what it meant to be accessible in a digital world before I came to NIFA. I come from a background in working with nonprofit livestock organizations. So I worked for the National Swine Registry with their print publication magazine. And then my most recent job was with the American Hereford Association. And I was helping with their magazine, which was print, and then we also put it online. So unfortunately, like accessibility wasn't a big thing that we talked about. So as you know, you guys are all learning about it. I feel like I'm right there with you, but I can definitely, like, hopefully today share what we're using at NIFA that helps us. Accessibility is really important, and making sure that everyone has access to information on the digital platform, specifically to social media. So the first section I have here is specific to making your copy accessible. And so what that means is, before you hit the publish button, you want to think like, what does this copy, how is it going to translate within a screen reader? Or even how does it translate to those who English is their second language? So, generally, if you just keep in mind that clarity is key. And what that looks like is writing in plain language to avoid jargon, slang, or technical terms, which can be very challenging in our line of work because, the content that we're pushing out on social could be a lot of research-based ideas. And so that content, that research also goes along with a lot of scientific terms that people might not understand. So just keeping in mind, what does your audience look like, and how can you communicate that copy in a clear way? Another thing to keep in mind when we're thinking about accessibility and our screen readers is don't overuse caps. Sometimes full caps can be difficult to read and can be misinterpreted by a screen reader. And then when you are using multi-word hashtags, be sure to use camel case. So only capitalize the first letter of each word. So that way your hashtags are more accessible to those screen readers. And then just a little bit more on hashtags and emojis. So punctuation marks are read out loud by screen readers. So be mindful that your hashtags are going to be read out loud, and then your @ mentions are also read out loud, and that can disrupt copy. So one thing that you can do to avoid that or just make it clear is include your hashtags and your tagged accounts toward the end of your copy. So it's the last thing that is read. And then also same with emojis and emoticons. So those are read out loud by those who are using a screen reader. So that means people will hear things like loud crying face, or if you're including, a happy face. So one thing you can do is just see how those types of emojis are translated to text, just to be mindful. And then this next section I have is going over how to include alt text for images. And alt text is just essentially like a photo caption. It's a descriptive caption that explains to the reader what this image is. And so when you are writing your alt text, you want to keep in mind to convey the content. There's a huge gap in saying this is a bar graph versus saying something like a bar chart illustrates that there has been a year-over-year increase in forest fires. So the more description you can give in your alternative text, the better of an experience the user who will need that assisted technology to read out to them, that it just enhances their experience. And then also when you are writing alt text, it's pretty redundant to start the sentence with image of or photograph of. A screen reader will automatically read that type of phrase out loud. So you can just skip that and get right into the description text that you have to accompany that image. And then if it's important to the image, make sure to mention color. Same with humor, descriptive text doesn't have to be overly formal. So try to express, what's funny if that's what's being depicted. And then transcribe text. So, a lot of the time for us, we could be sharing a graphic, maybe it's about a virtual event that we're having, and that graphic has the event information on it. You'll want to make sure that you include that copy in your descriptive text, so that way the user isn't missing out on anything. And then that's the same case for GIFs too. Make sure that you're including a description for your GIFs. And so this next section, I have broken down how it looks to include alt text in your images per platform. So I know this might look a little bit different to everyone, depending on how you are executing your post. So some people might be using Hootsuite. Us at NIFA, we're using Meltwater's Engage tool. So, and I know specifically with Meltwater, we're able to add in alt text through that platform, through the Meltwater platform, no matter what platform we are posting to. So this is to just give you an idea of what does adding in alternative text look like to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. So with Facebook, I've included 2 screenshots. So the screenshot on the left, that is showing, you're creating a post through Facebook. You've added in an image. So as you can see, there's a media section. And then there is, a couple different 3 icons. I've circled the edit, like the pencil tool. So this is where you can go and edit, you can crop your image, you could add a filter to it. But at the bottom of that list that you will see on the right hand screenshot, once you've clicked the pencil tool and you'll get this prompt of editing your photo, then you can add in your alt text there. And then here's what it looks like on Instagram. So keep in mind, you can't post natively through Instagram. So what I did was I used my mobile device. So hopefully it translates across whether you're using an iPhone or an Android. I would imagine that it's the same type of verbiage that gets used. But so the first screenshot I have is where you're initially putting together your post. And so you'll see at the bottom of that list, there is an advanced settings. And I've circled that. And then once you click that, then it'll take you to this middle screenshot. And there it, toward the bottom end of that picture, there is an accessibilities section. And you'll click that write alt text button. And then you can, it'll take you to where you can input your descriptive text for that image. And then here's what Twitter looks like. So you're composing your tweet and you've added in an image. And then as you can see on that left-hand screenshot, I have circled the add description. Once you click that, it leads you to the right-hand screenshot, which is where you can put in your alt text. And then here's what LinkedIn. So you've composed your LinkedIn post, you've selected to add an image to it. And then the prompt that you will receive is what the left-hand screenshot looks like. You'll have a couple options at the bottom. You'll want to select alt text, and then you can add in your alt text there. I've also, we can make this PowerPoint available to everyone. And I went through and I've linked each platform's heading, and that gives you more of a descriptive, it takes you to each platform and it has a list of following steps that you can take to do this too. And then my last section that I wanted to cover was just a brief overview of video captions. So here at NIFA, we don't post a lot of videos natively within our social platforms. Majority of the time, we are linking to a video. So just whenever videos are involved, you'll want to make sure that you are including closed captions for those with hearing impairments. But not only does it enhance their experience, but also for those who maybe are watching your video and English is not their native language. And then also if people are viewing it and they might not be able to have the sound on. So, you know, adding closed captions can benefit a lot of people in a lot of different situations. So definitely something to keep in mind as you're promoting videos through social media. So, and I believe that leads me to my last slide, which we can open up for questions. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everyone. I know it's Chris, you have a question.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. I'm Chris Branham with Oregon State University. I manage our 3 social media accounts here. Where I struggle with alt text is how descriptive should I be of the people in the photo? I hate to say this, but I sort of use as shorthand what Vice President Kamala Harris said when she was on video, and it caught a lot of controversy where she says, "I'm a woman wearing a blue dress," or something. I think that's what she said. So I sort of use that as a shorthand in my head. But I'm asking you, and for all the people in this meeting, how descriptive are you of the people in the photo? I want to be descriptive, but on the other hand, I don't want to offend people. So
Yeah.
how do we do it?
Yeah, I know. And that's something we've actually ran into here. To share one of our stories is, you know, we shared an image. It was related to one of our veterinary programs, and we shared an image of a female vet, and we included that, you know, here, whatever the descriptive the photo caption said was, here's a female veterinarian she's blah, 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 doing blah, blah, blah. Well, it actually got backlash that we were calling out that she was a female veterinarian. You know, why do we need to pinpoint her gender? So I guess, you know, and I think it could be my response could be subjective to you, to some, you know, who else is creating alt text. But I think that what I would keep in mind is I try not to use things like gender. I guess what I'm saying is make sure it makes sense. I mean, does it describe what the meaning of that photo is? I don't know if I'm giving you the best answer, but if gender doesn't play a part in it, I probably wouldn't mention it if it doesn't matter that you need to call out that. So yeah, I don't know if I have the right answer for you. I think like making sure that whatever your alt text is including makes sure that that user has a full understanding of what that image is depicting.
So a quick follow-up to that, sorry. So would it be a good practice? So if the person, let's say it's our extension director sitting on a horse, which happened recently, would a best practice be OSU extension director Ivory Lyles is sitting on a horse, as opposed to a man is sitting on a horse?
Yeah, I think, yeah, because I mean, that allows you to be more descriptive in who it is even. So yeah, I think what you've come up with there is a great, example.
Okay, thank you.
Looking in the chat here.
There is a question that was sent in, so I'm going to go ahead and ask that. It's, how do I stay current on best practices in this space? When I attended the June meeting last year, I feel like there was a lot of info on this topic, and I didn't know much in this area. So I'd like to know if there's somewhere I can go to stay up to date and make our content as accessible as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here at NIFA, I mean, I'm lucky because USDA, their communications team kind of trickles information down to us if we need it. I think it's like anything else. You know, you're trying to stay up to date on social media trends, you know, what's happening on Instagram, what are people posting about on Facebook. So, you know, a Google search into a Google search, just asking what's the latest or how to stay up to date in accessibility, you know, and looking at those reliable website outlets. And I know, like, if you're referring to the meeting in June that we helped with, that accessibility sector, I think we kind of cover, I know we didn't talk about social media. I think our designer, she shared, you know, making PDFs and Word documents or whatnot. So I think maybe we as NIFA could do a better job putting out information for you guys and having resources available, and you all utilizing us when your questions come out or arise on, you know, what you need to know and when to utilize it. So I think kind of doing your own homework and utilizing Google could be a great place, as long as you're looking at reliable resources. And then maybe here at NIFA, we can definitely put together some stuff and share it at our town halls and whatnot.
Can I add to that?
Yep.
Yeah, this is Lori Greiner. I'm sorry, I'm traveling, so I'm in a car, not in a phone, but in a car. I was going to mention that there are two social media sites that I follow that are great places to get information, and you can throw questions out. One is called PDF Accessibility. It's a group. They've got some great resources. The person who runs that one is a great resource. And then there's another group called Accessible Social. Again, another place that people are asking questions. They put out the latest, greatest new, you know, tips and things like that related to accessibility. So I would encourage you all to look into those if you want to stay abreast, you know, using those sites.
Yeah, those sound like great resources to have in your back pocket. And
yes, they are I see the question. They are Facebook. Well, I think one might just be a page and one might be a group. But yes, they are on Facebook.
While I'm thinking about it, I'm just dropping in my email here, so that way if there are any questions afterwards, so you'll have that. It looks like there's some activity going on in the chat.
Yeah, there is. Tunyali, do you want to read? Do you want to share what you posted in there, or should I?
It's following up with what Lori said, that there's a few social media accounts and more hardcore online resources that we love, and we're trying to get that together in a list, and we plan to share that with all the ACE members soon.
Thanks.
Looks like Sherry gave some good advice on what she utilizes, or kind of the guidelines that she follows on alt text. I'm not sure. There's a question about Hootsuite. I'm not sure, just because I haven't used that platform. I don't know if anyone else is familiar and they're utilizing Hootsuite, but I could look and see. I can only imagine that you can add in alt text through Hootsuite, but I would have to do a Google search on that. Oh, looks like Ellen. Yep, you can. Perfect.
Dara, there is I can't see the questions and talk at the same time, but I think there's a question about audio descriptions. Can you, I think Zach asked that in the chat.
Yeah, Zach, so like I had mentioned in the presentation, so with videos, we're posting to you. If we share a video, a lot of the times it's coming from our YouTube account. And so YouTube will generate a transcript, and YouTube will actually provide closed captions. Just keep in mind, if you go that route, you have to review that transcript to make sure all of the words and whatnot match up, just because with the industry and the content that we're sharing, some terminology doesn't quite translate. And so, yeah, you'll just want to review that. But that's how we are sharing our videos and making sure that they have closed captions included.
So just to follow up on that, you all do use audio descriptions, but you have to have an editor or someone to with the automated language that YouTube comes up with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tanya Lee, is your hand up? Looks like.
Yeah, hi, I had a question. Thanks, Rachel, for your presentation. It was really good to hear what you're doing for accessibility. And my question for you is, for you and for anybody, what are the challenges you face with accessible social media, and as an ACE member, what you might want to learn more about, so that we can find those resources for you? Because like you, I am also still learning as well, and things do change. So
yeah, I mean, I think definitely keeping up. I mean, part of it's also knowing where these things are at within each platform too. So yeah, hopefully the brief screenshots that I shared are somewhat helpful. And like I said, I did link to each of those platforms, and it gives a much more descriptive way to access all that stuff. I'm just more of a visual person, so I felt like it might be easier to see it instead of just reading bullet points for you all. But yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about what ACE has going, what we have here at NIFA, we're all a community. So, you know, just sharing what we know. And like I said, if we at NIFA can put out more resources to helping you guys stay up to date, I think that would be beneficial to you all and to me too, because then it keeps me in the loop on things.
There's a comment or a question by Whitney Baxter in the chat, and it's given how screen readers may translate emojis, is it best practice to avoid using the emojis in your posts?
Yeah, I know I felt kind of contradicting when I put my presentation together, where it was like, well, use your emojis at the end, or only tag your accounts at the end, because I don't know. I think people, I don't know, on social media, you kind of expect sometimes to see emojis, and I think it helps your post with emotion. So I think I try not to overload with emojis. One or two here and there is what I use. I think 2 max is what I've ever used in a post. Probably keeping that more to 1, but I don't know. I think, yeah, it can kind of be up to your discretion, but I think using them in scarcity is also probably a good way to look at it.
There's also, thank you for that, Rachel. There's also a question by Elizabeth Gregory North, and I'm not sure if this may need a little bit more information, but it says, what about audio descriptions like alt text for videos and not captioning or transcriptions of the audio? If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Elizabeth, are you talking about, I have to put it in like a scenario, but so if you have like a 30-second clip that you're just wanting to upload straight into Twitter or wherever, are you talking about just making sure that that clip has some type of audio description with it? Or
an audio description is something that the viewer would hear that describes what somebody else would see in the video.
Mhm.
So in that way, it's like alt text, but it's for video, not just a still image.
Oh, yeah.
It's different from closed or open captioning or transcription,
Mhm.
which would be of the audio text, translating that into text that could be read by a screen reader. This would be in the form of audio that describes the action that's going on in the video.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So just an example of what I'm thinking of. So like on YouTube, again, we always make sure that we do have a description. Like you'll have your YouTube video, then you'll have a description of it. So that way that screen reader will read that description of the video. And like you said, it's explaining what the viewer is expected to hear for, the information they're expected to gain from this video. And then we also like to include some type of contact information. So that way people, if they have any further questions, they can have a resource to.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Lori.
Oh, I was just going to add to the emoji discussion a little bit that I was in a class once, and they, sometimes you see these folks that put like 10 different emojis, and that's really what you want to avoid, because then the screen reader just goes on and on and on, and it's confusing and you don't know. So the approach that you take, Rachel, 1 or 2 is probably a good best practice as far as using emojis in your posts. Another thing, as far as audio transcripts or descriptions, the one thing that you can do too is to make sure you put some of that in your not in the description, but in the transcription, like music. If music is playing in your video, you can put the word in brackets, music playing, or if you could just add that to your captioning as well when you go in to edit them. Does that make sense? So if you're editing your captions, you can add some of that descriptive language right into your captions.
And Chris dropped in the chat about how screen readers kind of act with hashtags, and yeah, definitely probably limiting your hashtag use too can help keep your copy cleaner. And also you can keep this in mind too. Like I know for Twitter, you don't have to hashtag things in order for it to generate into like the trending topic. You know, if we're talking about Halloween, you don't necessarily have to hashtag the word Halloween in order for it to be a trending, to fall into that trending topic. So yeah, you don't have to even use the hashtag in that regard.
And also, as we consider people who may be listening and not able to see the chat, once Elizabeth Gregory North put in that question, someone responded. Who responded? It just moved.
Oh,
Okay,
Stacey.
3Play Media. Okay, yeah, Stacy Herrick said that they use 3Play Media for their audio descriptions. So that's cool. I'm about to put in the chat.
Oh, you're muted, Dara.
I'm about to put in the chat a link from Hootsuite with how they handle adding alt text to images.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Lori, do you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I was going to just ask, this might not be a question for Rachel, but I'm going to throw it out to the group. How do people, how are people handling working with other people that they work with that do social media to try to get them not to post flyers in their social media like PDFs? A lot of us work with county agents and things, and they have their social media accounts, and they just slap that PDF and put that in as an image, and trying to get them to actually, because they really need to take that information that's on that PDF if they want to do it right and put it in the description. Has anybody had luck, trying to convince people not to do that? Anybody have any comments regarding that?
I don't know if I have an answer to it, but yeah, I think it's hard. But then also I don't know if maybe explaining to them that, and I don't know how it is to interact with county agents or whoever is running those types of accounts. But I like to think about it like there's always a relationship between your copy and your image or your graphic, and it should be like a complementing one. So if you have room in your copy to add more information, then you don't necessarily need it on your graphic. And that can kind of free that up and make the aesthetic a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I don't necessarily have great feedback on how to deal with the relationship.
I think, Rachel, what you're saying is that it basically comes down to ongoing professional development and re-educating and reminding, because as we all know, human beings are very interesting folks, and to their defense, not everyone is a communicator. Not everyone understands how things need to be communicated on various platforms or for various audiences. Hence why communicators are so needed in every aspect of everything. But to answer Lori's question, my first, my instinct that came back to me as soon as she asked a question was jackhammer. But it's hard. It's hard, but it just takes constant reminding and sometimes just letting the communicators do the communicating.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear Elizabeth's take on this from maybe a leadership culture standpoint. Accessibility here at OSU now has become like another letter in DEI. We now are saying DAIE. It's another A in the acronym now. So so if accessibility is really important, I wonder if the leadership culture could talk about some of the things that Lori was just mentioning. We feel like whenever we mention accessibility in social media, we just get blank stares from people. And to be honest with you, I was on the other end of an email recently from someone in administration who talks about accessibility, and they basically say, can you post this flyer to your social media posts? So even they are not quite up on that. And I'm wondering if it's an opportunity, and Elizabeth, maybe you could talk a little bit about having leadership talk about the importance of accessibility in social media, filtering all the way down to the folks in the offices and making it a priority, so they're not essentially publishing stuff on social media that is not accessible to a portion of the public.
That's a great question, Chris. And I've got, I think at least 4 people from our department here who are on the call and may have better answers for this than I do. We do have Karen Page, who has been designated the accessibility coordinator for Extension, which I thought was a great, kind of flag to wave. She is also our publications manager. And right after we got that through and we start developing accessibility policy, we had a transition in our extension director position. So now we have an interim. And the previous extension director was really convinced that this was the way we needed to go. We need to be very serious about accessibility. We needed to get it, through to the faculty and on down to the extension agents and staff at the county level. But our new interim director doesn't seem as convinced. So I'm having to we are having to start all over kind of with him. But and Ellen Graves, who is our social media strategist, is on too. And she often talks about how difficult it is when faculty send out to extension agents an agenda, saying this is the upcoming meeting that we're going to do. And extension agents then turn around and post that agenda on social media, saying to their clients, here's the agenda for the meeting that's coming up that you could come to. So, so it's kind of a multi-pronged, multi-step process. But I'll be quiet and let some others from Mississippi talk about it if y'all want to.
I was just going to say, this is Ellen Graves. I'm the social media strategist, work alongside Elizabeth. So it's funny that we brought this up because I literally, before this meeting just started, I sent an email to an extension agent and she was asking about, social media graphics, and her interpretation is a flyer. Mine is different than that, as I literally just sent an email trying to explain to her kind of some of the differences. And one of the things that we've been exploring just really in baby steps is the idea of using something like a paid Canva account for graphic design needs and finding a way to maybe put in appropriately branded templates that agents can use, and they can have some freedom, but we have some control. And I don't know, it's going to be a long road. I don't have any answer at all for this situation, but I'm glad that we can talk it out together.
Yeah, I think Canva is a great tool to utilize for that, Ellen.
I agree, Rachel. I think especially if you're dealing with non-communicators, it's best to give them the templates, both the visual versions as well as the textual versions, and then they can better know how to do that, because otherwise you're going to get what you get.
This is Karen at Mississippi State. Start my video. We've just talked a lot about education being what we need to focus on. Somebody in the comments said that they explained why you shouldn't post your flyer, and they're more receptive once they've been educated. So we think that education is going to be the key to getting people to understand the problem and what they should do about it. It's just a matter of finding the time to create those resources and get them out there.
Yeah, definitely. And just spreading awareness about it, because it's probably not that they don't want to do it or that they're opposed to, but yeah, definitely spreading the awareness. And I'm sure finding time and trying to micromanage people on it is, yeah, very tiresome, but.
I think this is going really well, and this is a lot of information. This is a reminder that it's being recorded, so it will be visual for people after the fact. And I know that you already let us know that you'll be sharing your presentation so that we can look back on that as well. I do have another question regarding best practices. And well, best practices, yes, but more so, what are the most common things that you see, and then the workarounds for them?
So like common, when you say most common things, like common mistakes or, okay. See, I don't know if I see a lot. I will say that there is this Twitter account, and it's like a government. I can't think of the handle, but it goes and it like monitors all of the government, like federal Twitter accounts, and they will call you out. Like they'll retweet your post or your tweet if you haven't used alt text. And I should try to find it, because one time I got on there and like they had just created this account this summer, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose it if I see one of our tweets on here. But thankfully they're not following us yet, so I don't know if we're not on their radar. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that adding alt text is another step that you have to do. And, you know, it takes time to schedule out your post, create your content. So, and on top of that, adding in your alt text is, you know, X amount of minutes that you're spending additional time on. But, you know, we're in an area to educate people, spread, you know, news and research and articles and whatnot. So I just encourage everyone to use it, and I thank everyone who is using it now. So because you know, people need the access to whatever you're sharing. So I don't know if I've seen like any bad or any examples of people not following it. And maybe it's because, you know, I'm not. Sometimes I wonder, like, if you're not using a screen reader, if that is a different experience for someone. Like, am I going to be able to pick out like, oh, that person didn't use alt text here? So yeah.
I see Alyssa and then Lori put their hands up, so they can go right ahead.
Thanks, Dara. Thanks, Rachel, for all the background you're providing. I guess I have a question, because on our channels, we also share other folks' posts. And so to the point maybe that you just made, I'm not challenged, so I'm not using a screen reader every day. So how do I know that these posts that I'm sharing are accessible or not? Is there a way to do that?
That's an excellent question. And because I don't know if, because so we've thought about this as far as if we have a video from that someone else, one of our stakeholders has put together, you know, are we able to share that video if it doesn't have an audio description or closed captioning? And so, and now that I'm on the spot, I don't know if I remember like what our final, I mean, I think anything that we post on our website, we want to make sure that we're following accessibility. So when it comes to like, for example, retweeting something, let me just quickly. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're taking on, if you retweet something from another account, you're taking on the chance that it might not be accessible. They might not have a image description or alt text for that image. So, and you can see that, I believe, on Twitter when there is an alt. Oh, it looks like there might be some feedback in the chat on this, but I think there is a little icon that says like alt text in Twitter. So I guess I'd be mindful in what you are sharing and if it is accessible or not. So yeah, Twitter will have an alt text on the picture. You can also right click to inspect the photo to see the code for the alt text.
And do you know, can you do that from your phone, or do you have to be in the application on the computer?
I don't know the answer to that right now, because I don't know if I haven't worked off my phone on Twitter a lot, but let me, if anyone knows that off the top of their head, drop it in the chat, but I'll follow up and see what.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Thanks
No,
for
I'm sorry. I feel like, oh my gosh, I should know this.
Lori?
So I was going to suggest for a best practice, you know, it's always those events that folks want to post and share. And like you talked about the flyers and they post them up there. But one of the things I know we've done here in Virginia is we've tried to get folks to use the Facebook events. So instead of posting their flyer up there, we've tried to work with them to develop a shared event. So if it's a shared event, then they can just direct people back to the event page, right? And then if it's a shared event with the state office, then we can help share their event. So we're kind of dual purpose there. We're trying to get them out of putting up the flyer as a PDF. And then we're also trying to have more access to their information so we can do a better job of sharing it. Or if they don't want to create a Facebook event, then they could we also are really trying to encourage them to just put the information for their event on their accessible website and forget putting the flyer online, all the details in the Facebook post. You just direct people back to that page on your website instead of posting that PDF. So we've really worked hard with folks, and that it has helped as we get more people to do that.
I think another thing just with the Facebook event that is convenient is instead of posting the flyer with all of the event information, at least if you have the Facebook event, you might be able to actually drive more traffic to your event because people can select if they're going, or once they do select if they're going, they might get reminders that this event is going on and they're more likely to join in versus, oh wait, I think I saw a flyer posted one time like a couple days ago. So they might it might help increase attendance. Oh, it does look like Twitter allows for adding alt text via mobile app. Perfect.
Right, it does, and it's pretty simple. Once you upload the photo, at the bottom right of the photo, you see plus add alt, and then once you click on that, you can type in the description. So they made it easy. Looks like Stacy Herrick was saying something in the chat as well. If you right click on an image in Facebook and inspect it there too, it will open a code panel on the right and you can see what is in there for alt text. Thank you, Stacy. And Tunyali, do you want to share what you also put in the chat?
That's what Rachel just said, that you can, if you are on your desktop or on your phone, if the photo has alt text, then it will say alt in the, I think, lower left corner. And you can also right click on it, just like with Facebook, and see the code. It's called inspect, and then you'll see the actual code for everything, and there should be alt text in there. And we actually don't retweet the image if it doesn't have alt text at all.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So it's obvious that some agencies and people are really taking that very seriously and being considerate of that. Lori, is your hand up again, or is it just still up from before?
No, it's up again. I was just looking at the clock and I know we only have a few minutes left. And one of the things I wanted to make sure we ask the folks that are still online, and we want to try to do these accessibility talks more often on different topics. So I was just wondering if anybody had another topic that they'd really like us to talk about, whether that's video captioning or other types of accessibility topics, so we can plan for our next webinar.
I think video captioning would be a good one, just because the nature of what people are wanting to look at on social media, a lot of the times it could be videos. So yeah, getting a good sense of that could be beneficial.
Sorry, I have one more question. So when you, on social media, a lot of times if you type in a URL, it will give you an automatic photo that comes in with that URL, but those aren't often, I mean, how would you know if those are okay?
Yeah. because I would think that the screen reader would be reading the link out loud, and then I don't know if it like I don't know if it like has like some type of automatic generated words that would like say that link leads you reading out, that little preview image with the link reading out where it sends you.
Because I know,
This is Laura.
sorry,
I was just going to say that you have to actually put those words in your alt text, or you actually have to put the descriptor on the link for it to read it. So if it's not in the code, then it won't get read.
So Lori, just to make clear what you're saying that when you build the website, if you didn't put the alt text on the image on the website on that link, then when it transfers over to social media, it will not pull the alt text.
Oh, well, I'm not 100% sure. It should hold the alt text if you're linking to the image online, but you have to make sure that the descriptor information is in there. So if it's in there, it should read it, but I'm not sure. We'll have to check into that, because I'm not sure. Because I know when you can put descriptors on the URLs, so it says where it's going. Like, we'll have to check on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a search on that now to see.
And while you're doing that, there's I think Whitney Baxter put something in the chat asking, would that be, and you may have to.
I'll interrupt you here.
There we go.
That was just kind of a kind of carry off of what Lisa was saying.
Yeah, I think that's going on with what that discussion. Let me, if I find an answer for that, I can send it over whenever I provide the PowerPoint information. But great question.
Yeah, these are all really great questions. I see we have it's 4:55 my time. I'm in the Caribbean and don't know all the other times right now. But this has been really, really useful information. And since we're just coming to wrapping up this hour, are there any other thoughts, questions, anything for Rachel while we have her?
Well, thank you all for your time and the great discussion that was had here. I feel like I learned a lot. Hopefully I was able to share some information for you all to take home today. But I did provide my email in the chat, and it's included in that PowerPoint once you receive it, if you had any further questions or needed any type of assistance outside of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This has been really, really good. I've definitely learned a lot, and I'll be in touch if I have any other questions, because this is great information for those of us at ACE and just ag communicators and communicators in general to be able to really start paying more attention to.